Ecuador, President Guillermo Lasso decreed on Friday the extension of the measure of exception due to the continuity of the acts of violence inside and outside the prisons. The Vice President of Argentina, Cristina Fernandez, led a meeting of delegates of the Metal Workers Union in her first publicada since the attack she suffered at the doors of her residence. U.S. Defense Department announced a new $400 million military assistance package to Ukraine. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Ecuador, the President Guillermo Lasso decreed on Friday the extension of the measure of exception due to the continuity of the acts of violence inside and outside the prisons. The decree of President Guillermo Lasso extends the state of exception in force the provinces of Guayas and Esmeraldas to the town of Santo Domingo de las Tachilas and includes a curfew regime that starts every day from 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. local time. The statement stated that the government will take all necessary decisions to preserve peace and qualified as act of sabotage and terrorism, the wave of prison violence, in addition to which explosive attacks against gas stations have been added in the last days. Bolivian President Luis Arce will chair the inauguration of the technical roundtable to define the data for the census. The head of state will attend the inauguration ceremony at the Technical University of Beni. Mariscal Jose Valliviana, government representative of various departments, municipalities, and indigenous communities, will attend the meeting. The specialized committee will include a representative of international organizations, United Nations experts, and representative of the community of Latin American and Caribbean states. Analysts are examining some of the issues that both Republicans and Democrats are using to attract voters at the midterm elections in the U.S. They say that whatever the outcome, it will have an impact on U.S. international politics. From Mexico, our contributor Aribel Contreras puts a few questions on the table. Let's take a look.
What's at stake in these midterm elections in the United States? It is important not to lose sight that Congress is made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate. On November the 8th, 35 Senate seats are on the ballot, along with 36 governorships out of the 50 that make up the Union, as well as all 435 seats in the House of Representatives. Question is, which color will prevail in Congress, blue or red? Which way things would go? It'll be a big lesson. These elections might be a good preview of what's to happen in the U.S. presidential elections in 2024. Which are the pending issues for Joe Biden? The disastrous situation left in Afghanistan. This year, he's been financing the war in Ukraine, and that's been at the expense of the American consumer, who's seen a reduction in their purchasing power, and the worst inflation in 40 years, close to 10%. And that's a priority issue for the electoral base. But there's a second important issue, abortion. Remember the overturning of the Roe versus Wade at the Supreme Court. Today, Democrats are betting on getting the women's vote because of this. And the third issue, the right to bear arms, and the smuggling of arms into Mexico is another issue that can make a difference in these elections. So we have to closely monitor the outcome, because whatever happens in the United States has consequences for the rest of the world. If the Democrats make headway, Joe Biden may be able to advance his agenda, but should the Republicans win the House or the Senate, Biden would have a hard time in office. So today, the world has to be attentive as to whatever happens in these midterm elections in the United States.
We'll take our very first break now, but remember, you can now follow us on our TikTok account, teleSUR English, which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back from the south. The Vice President of Argentina, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, led the meeting of the delegates of the Metal Worker Union in her first public since the attack she suffered at the doors of her residence. The Vice President was invited to the Congress by the Secretary General of the UOM, Abel Furlan. The event, which is taking place in the Buenos Aires city of Pilar, is also the first meeting of the Vice President with social movements after the attack against her. Until now, Fernandez has only attended meetings behind closed doors as part of her role as a President of the Senate. In this sense, union leaders praised Cristina's leadership while rejecting the violent attacks of the right-wing sectors. The Canadian government released the 2022 fall economic statement, warning that the country is likely to enter a mild recession in the first quarter of 2023. According to the statement, the Department of Finance developed a downside scenario that considered the impact of more persistent inflationary pressure and further tightening in monetary policy, leading to hard landing in the economy. In the downside scenario, the consumer price index stays above 3% until the first quarter of 2024, about 6 months longer than in the September 2022 survey, after reached 2% by the end of 2024. For 2023 as a whole, the real gross domestic products might decline by 0.9%. A 6.0 magnitude earthquake shook El Salvador with no initial reports of fatalities or material damage. Interior Minister Juan Carlos Videgain confirmed that the quake epicenter was located 37 kilometers off the country's southern coast near the town of Misata in La Libertad region. President Nayib Bukele stated there were no reports from the armed forces or police about damage to infrastructure or the other kind. The earthquake was felt in at least 14 departments, with people leaving their homes and taking to the streets in many residential areas. In Turkey, one person killed and 64 injured after a 4.9 magnitude earthquake in the city of Smyrna. The Disaster and Emergency Management Authority informed that the epicenter was located in the district of Buca in the early hours on Friday at the depth of about 14 kilometers. The governor of the locality announced that even knocked down the minaret of the mosque in Konak. However, he assured that the incident did not generate another important damage. The Eurasian country is located in areas with important seismic faults and therefore experiences a large number of earthquakes every year. The cholera virus, which has been decreasing for years as a result of the measure of global health institutions and governments, have started to increase its impact again due to reasons such as climate change, poverty, and conflicts. The fact that disasters such as hurricanes, heavy rains, and drought caused by climate change negatively affect access to clean water is known as the primary factor triggering the cholera epidemic. In addition, poverty and conflict are among the factors that cause the spread of the cholera. According to data of the World Health Organization, while the number of cholera cases worldwide was less than 20 from 2017 to 2021, cholera epidemics were seen in 26 countries only in 2022. Nearly 1,000 asylum seekers are currently at sea on board 3 different humanitarian rescue ships, waiting for a safe port to disembark. The Geo-Beren carrying 572 people, the Ocean Viking transporting 234, and the humanitarian one with 179. Humanitarian groups caring for the rescue people on the 3 ships are sounding the alarms about deteriorating conditions, including people sleeping on floors and spreading fevers.
Most of them are survivors of rescues. They spend several days at sea without water, without food, dehydrated, and many of them report many burns from fuel and salt water. We still have a lot of medical cases on board that need to be followed ashore to do further medical tests. We have many minors and children who travel alone and who are therefore in need of protection and assistance on land. In addition, this situation is becoming increasingly difficult in view of the worsening of the weather conditions.
We have more news coming up after this final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back. U.S. Defense Department announced a new $400 million military assistance package to Ukraine. Pentagon Press Secretary Pat Ryder announced that Washington will send another shipment of arms and war supplies to Ukraine. The contingent includes 45 T-72B tanks, 1,100 drones, 40 reverence armored vehicles, and surveillance and communication systems, as well as a funding line for missiles and armored upgrade. Since 2021, Washington has given Kiev $18.9 billion to sustain the conflict against Russia. Russia agreed with Turkey to supply the grain free of charges to needy countries after its return from Istanbul Food Pact. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan expressed his intention to rise at the next G20 summit the supply of food to African countries in the region. Erdogan stated that it will ensure that grain ships reach countries such as Somalia, Djibouti, and Sudan, which are struggling with the severe food crisis and famine. Russian President Vladimir Putin, for his part, stressed that even in case of living security agreement, his country will supply free of charges the whole volume of grain that is shipped from the territory of Ukraine to the poorest countries. North Korea vowed to U.S. response against any violation of its sovereignty by the United States and South Korea. Pyongyang warns that if the U.S. does not want a serious situation to arise, it must stop the campaign air drill with South Korea. As a spokesman for the North Korean Foreign Ministry said in a statement that the serious security situation was evidently caused by the U.S. and South Korea for staging the biggest joint air strike drill in history, while warning Washington not to act rashly. Early in the day, South Korea developed several fighter jets after detecting the mobilization of over 180 North Korean warplanes. Kenya's worst drought in 4 decades, it's wreaking havoc of wildfire. The Wildlife Minister presented key finding of a new report entitled The Impact of the Current Drought in Wildlife. The crisis affecting nearly all of these African nations, provinces living humans and beasts very few food sources. The Bosili and Laikipia Samburu region, which are homes to 3 city safari records more than 70 elephants dead. Some species like the gray zebras, which are listed in the International Union for the Conservation of Natural Redlists, were deadly hit. For consecutive rainy season failed in the Horn of Africa, driving families and wildlife on the brink of phenomenon. The Kenyan Tourism and Wildlife Minister said authorities were the dropping of eye for the animals.
The drought has caused mortality of wildlife, mostly herbivore species. The mortalities have risen because of the depletion of food resources and as well as water shortages. I confirm that different species of wildlife have been affected by the drought, with a total of 14 different species of wildlife being affected between the months of February and October this year.
Oh, Esther, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. Telesur English, and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.